Welcome to episode 84 of the Necronama.com. I am James Sabata, horror author, screenwriter, co-host of the podcast you're listening to right now. And I'm kind of mad at Adam Marcus for following my family around at holiday events, writing it all down and making money off of it. It's crazy.
And I'm Don Guillory, author, historian, educator, co-host of this podcast, and all I can just say is fucking Christmas.
All right, Adam Marcus is here, guys. This is
hey
sweet.
guys. Hey, by the way, I like just from those introductions of yourselves, this is going to be one of the most fun podcasts I've ever been involved with. So that is awesome right off the bat. Really good, man.
This literally just occurred to me since I've done my introduction. I went through this period where I was the biggest Grinch in the entire fucking world. And now I'm the opposite. I'm the guy that loves Christmas trees everywhere and everything's there too early. But maybe it's actually that 10 years ago I moved away from my family and now suddenly I like Christmas.
Well, dude, here's the thing. The concept behind the movie, to a large degree, and for those people who don't know what the hell we're talking about, my latest film, Secret Santa, which came off the road last year from its festival run, which was amazing, around the world, and now is on Blu-ray, DVD, and available for streaming. That movie is predicated on the idea of it's the movie for people who don't necessarily love the holidays, but feel beholden to have to deal with their families during the holidays. And some people, that's the only time they deal with their families, is Thanksgiving and Christmas. That's it. The rest of the year, they barely think. I mean, they'll put a phone call in for a birthday or whatnot, but that's the time when you trek across the country, especially if you have kids. You have to drag your kids with you. Your kids really don't want to do it unless they're going to get a shit ton of presents. And for the most part, most people dread the holidays. They love the Christmas look and the spirit and all that stuff. Here's the thing. It's the idea that somehow we're supposed to love our families no matter what. What if you get dealt a shitty hand? A lot of people do. Yeah. A lot of people have family. I mean, I dare anyone to tell me they go home for any holiday, whether it's Christmas, Hanukkah, Kwanzaa, whatever it is, and they don't stare across the table at that uncle that you just want to kill that guy. Like you just freaking hate that dude. And you have to sit there and smile and pretend like everything is cool. So that's why I made Secret Santa. I mean, that's really what it's about.
I'm your target audience then.
I love it. We both are.
I love it.
Definitely.
I dig it. And by the way, I mean, on familial events that revolve around Christmas, because I had a very complicated relationship with Christmas, simply that my parents, who, mind you, are both Jews, got married on Christmas Eve. Okay. So already that's really complicated. But they did it because it was my mom's favorite season of the year. They grew up in New York, and New York during Christmas, like there's no place on earth that's more beautiful. It's so extraordinary during Christmas. The entire city is lit up. It's beautiful. Right. So my mom, she could get the synagogue for cheap, which my mother's father adored. Everything was decorated for Christmas. Everything was sort of perfect and beautiful and shiny. Right. And so when they started to, like, when they would have an anniversary party, it was Christmas Eve. Well, which was great for their relatives because, that was, a time to have it where it didn't have to be about Christmas. But all of their friends were not Jews. So they had a, collection of people who wanted to celebrate Christmas on Christmas Eve. Well, guess what? They had to have a Christmas party. It couldn't just be an anniversary party. It had to be a Christmas party. My mother, who was like, super type A personality, is like, I will have the best Christmas party on planet Earth. And so we had these like lavish, crazy Christmas parties, right? So I was one of those kids, like I got Hanukkah and then I got Christmas. And I always got the fun stuff on Christmas. Like Hanukkah was always like pencils. or socks, like shitty presents. So we loved Christmas, right? Christmas was when I got my Millennium Falcon from Kenner. Like, that was Christmas, right? Well, problem is, when I was 6, my parents split up, but they kept having the freaking party together. And everybody hated everybody. So suddenly I'm 6 years old and they're all like really super sweet with me. And it's like perfect for the kids. And truly they would turn around and be like, where's my fucking check, motherfucker? And I'm like, what is happening? So at 6 years old, suddenly Christmas became this weird sort of saccharine bullshit thing for the children. And for the adults, they just wanted to murder each other. So that's really the inspiration for the movie. That's where it grew out of.
And several pieces of that really shine through.
Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah.
That's awesome. Yeah.
That was a great story. I don't know what else to say. I mean, that's just a great character overall. Even if she wasn't really your mom, just a Jewish woman obsessed with throwing the perfect Christmas party. That's a great idea.
Here's the really funny thing. Even though, the characters is definitely, there are things that are definitely from my mom. That's for sure. The character of Shari is absolutely an amalgamation. But here's what's really complicated for me on a Freudian level. My wife and co-producing partner and my writing partner, Deborah Sullivan, plays Shari, plays the mother figure in the movie. So my wife is kind of playing parts of my mom, which is really fucked up. Like, I mean, a therapist would have a freaking field day with my psychologist.
I was going to ask if you had some couch time after this movie.
Dude, the movie served as couch time. My brother, Kip Marcus, who you guys remember plays Officer Randy Parker in Jason Goes to Hell. Kip now is one of the top executives for Amazon Prime. And so Kip saw the movie. Kip was one of the first people to see the movie. He saw it overseas when we were at a festival. And his response to me was, he went, Adam, this is like family porn. I was like, yeah, kind of. Because there are a ton of direct quotes from holidays that I've had.
Nice.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah.
Writing's always therapy for me. I totally agree. My best stuff is all the stuff that I did that instead of seeing a therapist,
Totally.
So I definitely understand.
It's so true. It's funny. And I will say, for people who write horror in particular, because when I was growing up, I grew up, being the best friend of Sean Cunningham's son, Noel. I grew up with Wes Craven. He was Uncle Wes. With Sean Cunningham, with all of these with Tom Savini, with all these like major horror figures. The funny thing is, like, guys like Wes Craven, because Wes wrote his, all of his work. What's amazing about Wes and what's amazing about Clive Barker and a lot of these dudes, they're among the nicest, most caring, least fucked up people. Like George Romero couldn't be more of like, he was just a family guy. It's like, these guys, because what happens is I think we excise those demons in our writing, which kind of balances us out a little bit more because we are writing our psyche and our nightmares. And I know that I've written stuff. I mean, look, we were before we started the podcast, we were chit-chatting a little bit about the characters of the movie. And, there are two lead characters for my money. There's a yin and yang character in the movie, which is April, who is the good girl. Right. Who is this girl who is, fighting her own demons of alcoholism and whatnot, but has really tried to find a hopeful place and is trying to bring the family together and make things right. Right. And then you've got Penny, who is the girl who's like, let's burn the motherfucker down. Like, I hate all these people. I would be much happier if they just all were not here anymore. And what I realized when writing the project, truly, I was maybe 10 pages into the movie, and I suddenly went, oh, shit, Penny and April are me.
Yeah.
Like, those are the two sides of my own personality. That's me. That's those two people. So it's the fix-it and the one who wants everybody to say the fucking truth no matter what it does. Mm. So those two parts of my personality split off into those two characters. I was kind of into it. I was like, awesome. I've written myself as two women. Okay, cool. Again, therapists would have a field day. But go ahead.
Really fast. I want to go back to one thing you said about your wife playing your mom in a way. Yeah. My wife came home one day and she had just gone to the salon, came home with my mom's hairdo, but she didn't know this. She's met my mom once ever, right? And I was, what have you done? No. I was like, I'm busy the next 3 months, but
seriously, like you put a football helmet on her head for that. That ain't happening. No, I will say with my wife, and my wife knows this. Deborah and I are tomorrow celebrating our 22nd anniversary of being married. Awesome. We've been together for 28 years, but it's crazy. Like, I found my one true love. It's kind of crazy. And the thing is, right when we met, she had met my mother and was like, wow, your mom is a lot. I said, yeah. I said, I'm one of those rare guys that I didn't marry my mother. I actually married my stepmother because my wife is so much like my stepmother, who passed away many years ago, actually passed away right before I met Deb, where I was like, yeah, you're kind of like Kathy was. You're not really like my mom. And they're really, they could not be more different. And by the way, they get along great now. They're good friends, my mom and Deb. But it is true. Like, I also have to say the worst thing is if your wife got the haircut of her mother and you said something, that's deadly ground. That's deadly. Like, if you ever tell your wife she's like her mother, oh my God, like, leave the house, move, pack up your shit and get the hell out of there because you're done.
Change your identity and go into witness protection.
Right. There's not enough Ben and Jerry's Chunky Monkey to ever fix that mistake. Like, that's you're finished. You're finished. Well, it looks just like your mom. You're done.
And then you don't have to see anything because she's poked both your eyes out and gouged through your brain. So that's good.
So true. So true.
What about you, Don? Have you ever had an issue like this, or have you been able to save yourself from being in this terrible position?
I would like to save myself from any potential lawsuits from people who may have been involved in my life at one time by not mentioning them by name, because last time I did on the show, I ended up having nightmares. So I'm gonna abstain.
Smart man. Smart.
It was. I'm so glad we weren't recording, because.
For our listeners who don't know, Don records all of our episodes, and that's why, because he knows that I will use anything I can later as a joke.
Mm-hmm. As you should. Dude, that's our license as writers. That's our license. We are allowed to do that. Like, I warn everybody around me. I'm like, I will steal all your shit. It's gonna happen.
Oh, definitely.
With respect to the holidays, my thing really became an issue of working retail during the holidays. Uh-huh. So my experience with it was always, oh my gosh, I get time and a half, or I get, double pay for working on the holidays. So, oh God, sure. I'm not going to come home. I'm in college. I need to make money, Mom, Dad. I could just send you guys a gift, or I mean, this is way before Amazon Prime days, but as long as I could send a card or send a gift, it was one of those things of, just make sure you call that day, get your 5 minutes of, hey, happy Christmas, Merry Christmas, blah, blah, blah. All right, I'm going to go get my Chinese food as my tradition. So
nice.
I'll see you guys later.
Yeah. No, I could not avoid Christmas Eve. Even when I was in college, I'd have to go, because my mother lived in Connecticut and I was at NYU. And I'd have to go up to Connecticut for Christmas Eve, be there for that. And then I would go home on the first train on Christmas morning back to New York, because dude, I mean, I was a server in New York at a restaurant called America, which was America's biggest restaurant, size wise. And dude, I would walk out with $400 on a Christmas morning. Like, nice. People were like revenge tipping, because it was only, non-Christians who were coming into the restaurant for that day. And they put out so much cash. It was insane, dude. Like, it was one of the best days of the year for me. I will say this. What I've been noticing is that over the last year, when the movie first became available on DVD and Blu-ray, people would watch Secret Santa with their families. And sometimes they'd watch it like the night or two before Christmas. And I got a bunch of messages saying, wow, my Christmas was very different this year. It's sort of like everybody started minding their P's and Q's at the table because they had seen the movie as like a warning shot. Like, well,
that's awesome.
Don't want to end up murdered. So that kind of I think put a salve on certain parts of the holidays. The other thing is, look, just so that people don't think I'm so horribly cynical, because I'm really not. I'm definitely a romantic at heart. So if you get the Blu-ray or the DVD, there's a feature-length documentary on the Blu-ray and the DVD called Naughty or Nice, which is about the making of the movie, but it's also about the formation of Skeleton Crew, of my production company, which made this movie, and this was our first film out of the gate. And what I love about the documentary is that while the movie is this total fuck you to family, the documentary is about the family of filmmakers that have become our family. And so there's this incredibly positive pro spin on the family you choose rather than the family you're gifted with at birth. So that's kind of my feeling. And again, I adore the people in my family, but I got to tell you, I have too many friends, too many people I know who, they just can't stand their families. And especially now with the political atmosphere and everything else, you go home, invariably, there are going to be two sides at that dinner table. Like, it's hard to get 15 people, 20 people around a table anymore where everybody agrees. It's near impossible. Yeah. And so I
don't even think you can do that if everybody's on the same side. So
yeah, I totally agree with you. Right, exactly. Well, please. And by the way, here's the thing: liberals, and I'm a liberal. I mean, how could you guess? Jewish guy from New York. That's shocking. Here's the thing: liberals can't agree on what color the sky is.
Yep.
Which, by the way, is the advantage, because there's a lot of questioning and thinking and critical thought going on, which is great. But there's also no team playing. Like, the thing that I think conservatives do brilliantly is they are sports people. They totally understand how to be on a team. Liberals are all shining stars. We're all our own shining star. That's just true. And I take it.
Absolutely. That's why I'm laughing.
Yep. That is our to much degree our great failing, because we don't know how to go, oh, fuck my opinion. I'm going with the group. Let's go with the group. I can't even, and my family are pretty consistently all on the same side. And the arguments that happen are screaming arguments. Like, just screaming arguments. I don't have those arguments with my friends. I really don't. Because if I had those kind of arguments with a friend, I'd be like, yeah, I don't think this is a great friendship. This ain't gonna work. Like, we're not gonna have fun. And that's where I think the family you choose ends up being your family.
That is very literally one of those things I've been preaching my entire life.
The documentary on the disc, it goes to that place, which is it's such a sweet companion piece to this incredibly acidic horror comedy, that's also on the disc. So,
man, I wish I would have seen that. I watched it on Amazon, and I just love stuff like this. So I really want to see this now. That would have been great.
Yeah, it's fun. It's Naughty or Nice, The Making of Secret Santa. It's pretty cool.
I suppose we could jump into the actual film here a bit.
Sure.
But before we do you have anything you want to talk about? I know, do you want to talk about Skeleton Crew or anything else that you have going on? I didn't really ask you to talk about yourself. We just kind of jumped something we can do now.
Well, honestly, the movie, because the movie has so many biographical details in it, it's very easy for me to kind of get into that stuff pretty easily. But look, I mean, me in a nutshell is, I grew up in the East Coast, between New York and Westport, Connecticut. Westport, Connecticut is where I met my best friend as a child, Noel Cunningham. His dad infamously is Sean S. Cunningham. And because of the work that I had done as a teenager, I worked for Sean. I worked for Sean's wife, for Susan Cunningham. I helped. I was an apprentice editor on Spring Break. Have you guys ever seen this movie?
I have not.
Oh, is that the one with Mark Harmon? No, that's
No,
Summer
no,
School.
no. That's Summer School, which is a great movie. No, Spring Break is basically wall-to-wall boobs. Sean Cunningham was offered Red Dawn, the original Red Dawn, to direct that movie. And Sean turned it down to do a titty movie, which, by the way, made way more money than Red Dawn. Sean is like a divining rod toward money. That's what Sean knows. And so he made this movie. By the way, Spring Break went to #1 at the box office. It's the movie that, I'm not kidding, took Return of the Jedi out of the #1 spot.
Wow.
Now
Okay.
here's the crazy thing. Friday the 13th is the movie that took Empire Strikes Back out of the #1 spot. That's true.
Oh my God.
So Sean Cunningham literally took 2 Star Wars movies out of the #1 spot. One with a slasher ripoff of Halloween and Bay of Blood, and the other one is with a booby movie. Now, here's the thing. I was 13 when I worked on Spring Break. Okay. And by the way, I chose the entire soundtrack for the movie. I actually was the person who chose Cheap Trick to do the theme song for the movie Spring Break. That's a true story.
Nice.
But I always say I walked into the editing room a boy and walked out a man. So I worked on that movie, and then I had created 2 theater companies back east. I was a huge theater kid. I created 2 theater companies, and those companies actually paid my way through NYU Film School. So that's how I made all the money to make my movies and everything else. So I was doing theater and actually making money. It was insane. And Sean saw my film at NYU, which is called So You Like This Girl. I got 2 job offers when the movie won Best Picture at NYU the year I graduated. One was from Mark Frost and David Lynch to write on season 2 of Twin Peaks back in the day. And the other job was with Sean Cunningham, to come to LA, quote unquote, be my bitch for a year, and I'll give you your shot. Literally, that's what he said. So I ran to Los Angeles with I was completely paid off. I had no student debt. All my films were paid off. And at NYU, that was a hat trick. And big time. I get to LA. I'm 21. I had $300 in my pocket and no driver's license because I'd been living in New York for the last 5 years. So I get off in LA, and I had a script in my pocket for a movie I wanted to make called Johnny Zombie. And I ended up getting that set up with Sean at Disney. And then he gave me Jason Goes to Hell to make, to write and direct. And I was the youngest writer-director ever hired by a major studio. So I was 22 when they hired me. I was 23 when I shot the film. And and then, flash forward to, I'm offered every movie that has a sequel after, like a part number after Leprechaun 2, Amityville 97, Leprechaun Back to the Hood.
I saw that one.
I'm telling you, dude, I've been offered 4 Leprechaun movies and 2 Pumpkinhead films in my career. It's amazing. And I really didn't want to do any of that. Really for a pretty simple reason. I didn't want to be a guy who had a part number after every movie I made.
Right.
There's a few of those guys, and they're good filmmakers. The problem is they get stuck, and they're never allowed to do anything but that. So I didn't want to be that guy, especially at that time in the 90s. Like, you really got stuck in that spot, and you didn't believe in anything you were working on. You just went, all right, I'm going to kill some teenagers again. See ya. And for me, as I said earlier, like I'm a child of Wes Craven and George Romero and Tobe Hooper and these guys who, you look at the original Night of the Living Dead, and I love when people go, it's an awesome zombie movie. I'm like, yeah, fine. That's not the movie he made. He made a movie about the Vietnam conflict and about the civil rights movement.
Right.
It's just you couldn't make those movies back then. So he wrapped it in this candy coating of zombie movie, and the whole world went nuts and had no idea they were eating, vegetables inside the ice cream he put it in. So that's the kind of filmmaking I love. So I really, I stepped away from horror as a director. I did a big Sundance hit called Let It Snow that I got Bernadette Peters to come out of retirement for me. Stephen Colbert, it was his first movie. I had an unbelievable cast, and we were in festivals all over planet Earth. It was an amazing year of my life. And that got me a lot of television work and a lot of other stuff where I could use my voice the way I wanted to. In the meantime, my wife and I had been writing horror my whole career. So we had been selling scripts outside of the stuff I was directing and producing. And when I formed Skeleton Crew, my whole concept behind it and why Deb and I did this, and also my best friend and my partner, Brian Sexton, who's easily the best producer I've ever worked with. The three of us, our whole feeling was we were going to do a company that had three divisions: a higher level, higher budget division, a TV division, and my favorite division, which is the where the fuck did Roger Corman go division. Because there was a time when, I'm sorry, there's a reason that Coppola and Scorsese and Ron Howard and Jonathan Demme and Joe Dante, they all came out of the Corman school. Because Corman would say, look, I'm not going to give you any money. You will have almost no money to make this movie, but you will make your movie. And allowed these filmmakers to have their voice. And for me, our version of that now is what? Blumhouse? Well, that's not your voice. It's just not your voice. And I'm not saying anything negative or positive about Blumhouse or the movies that come out of Blumhouse. I'm just saying, yes, every once in a while there'll be a Jordan Peele, sure. But Jordan Peele was Jordan Peele before he walked in the door at Blumhouse. The problem is where Jeff Wadlow, that's the voice we're going to have of this generation? Really? Truth or Dare or Fantasy Island? Really? And so my feeling is there are incredible artists out there that are not getting a chance to tell the story the way they want to tell it. So I decided this was going to be something I would spearhead and something that I love. And when we were going to do the first feature, my response to it is, all right, I'm not going to tell any filmmaker to do something I'm not willing to do.
Okay.
And my partner was like, well, we need a horror movie. So let's start off with a bang. What do you got? And I had nothing that I could do for no money. He was literally like, in 2 months, I want to be shooting. And I'm like, Brian, we don't have a script. He's like, in 2 months, I want to be shooting. I'm like, okay. So he asked for a movie on Halloween night of 2015. I called this woman, Pat Destro, this brilliant actress who's in the film. She plays Aunt Carol in the movie. Pat Destro has this incredible house up in Big Bear, California, up on the lake. And I said, Pat, remember when you said I could use your house, your lake house? She's like, absolutely, anytime you need it. I said, well, I'm writing a part for you in this movie. I need you and the house. Can you be available first 2 weeks of January? She's like, absolutely done. I said, great. Can you go talk to all your neighbors and just ask if they'll keep up their Christmas decorations until the middle of January? Just don't take them down for a few weeks. I said, I'll throw them a few bucks if they'll do it. She said, no problem. She calls me back. She says, they're fine with it. They're happy not to take them down. They'll keep them up for a while. I said, great. So I knew I was art directed before I even went up the mountain. I got my house. I got all this stuff. And I started calling people that I knew. By the way, the entire cast of the movie are all students of mine because I teach acting in LA as well. I've had my own studio for a quarter century now. So I've got a collection of 60 actors that I work with every single week. Even during COVID, we're doing online classes. And some of these students have been with me for 22, 23 years. So these are like my best of my best. And so I started calling people and saying, hey, are you available for these 2 weeks? What can you do? And everybody was available. There was only one person who was like, oh, I've got a business thing. I can't be there for the full time. I can only be there for about 8 days. And I said, great, I'll kill you first. And that's what I did. And you guys, having seen the movie, beautiful, you'll know exactly who that is. So that's the person who had to go back to LA to do something. So I sat down on November 1st. The script was done November 20th. We had our first reading the 22nd. We did a very, very, very slight polish. And we did another reading, I think it was like November 25th, 26th. And I had a month to pre-produce the movie. By the way, a month to pre-produce the movie during Christmas time, which nothing is open. So like getting rental houses, getting all that stuff is insane in the month of December. And we left the first week of January, and I finished shooting on Martin Luther King Day that year. So 11 days. It's an 11-day shoot.
Wow.
So from the moment we conceived the idea for the movie till the time the movie was in the can was exactly 10 weeks. That's it.
Wow.
So
that's awesome.
Thank you. Yeah. So again, but my whole feeling was I need to prove that it can be done. And guys, I mean, I can't tell you how much the movie was made for, but let's put it this way. You can't buy a car for what I made the movie for. No joke.
Wow.
So, and by the way, it's a SAG movie, it's a WGA movie, and it's a Producers Guild movie. So we were a union film for those three guilds. And we were able to work with our unions and this is one of those things like people think you can't work with the unions. You can't make stuff happen. Yeah, you can. Yes, you can. I had 3 red cameras on the movie. By the way, I didn't pay for the cameras. I had 3 free red cameras because I called favors in. And the other part of it is, and this is no joke, I had a 5-person crew. That's it. 5 people. 5 people. My cast.
We talk about shoestring all the time, and this is from what we're hearing, ultimate shoestring budget we've covered, talked about, viewed, or even just talked about between the two of us. That's phenomenal.
Dude, I called Bob Kurtzman, who did the effects in the movie. And you guys know Bob. I mean, Bob Kurtzman is the K of K&B Effects. Who's done 400 movies, 400 films, guys.
Wow.
And he just did The Haunting of Hell House, the entire right. show, every ghost, every effect in the thing. Bob is as big a badass as they come. Well, Bob did, Jason Goes to Hell with me and was my second unit director on that film. I chose him as my second unit director, and Bob and I have been like brothers that whole time. So here's the thing. I called him up. I just finished the script, and I said, listen, dude, I'm not going to call anybody before I call you, but I'm telling you up front, you can say no to me. So know that it will not hurt our friendship. I love you. We're all good. I said, I got this script. I have no money. And when I say I have no money, I'm not saying like when Kevin Smith calls you and says he doesn't have any money. I'm saying I have no money. And he started laughing, and I was like, so, I'm not going to offer it to anybody else before you. If you want to take a look at it, I'll send it to you. He goes, send me the script. So I send him the script, right? I send it out to him. He calls me, no joke, he calls me 95 minutes later. Wow. And he says, I'm in. Like, I'm 100% in. He said, all I need you to do is fly me and my assistant out to where we're going to be, put me up, feed me, and I'm good to go. And I said, no problem. Awesome. I'm paying for houses. I'm paying for food. We're good. And then I said, hey, Bob, I said, look, you're a great filmmaker in your own right. Bob's directed 5 movies. I'm like, you're a terrific filmmaker. I said, you want to run second camera? And he actually said to me, he said, dude, now I feel like I should be paying you to do the movie. And Bob Kurtzman ran second camera. He ran B camera. I ran C camera. And my DP ran A camera. So that's the kind of thing that was going on in this thing. Like, it was crazy. It was 5 people on set as crew the whole time. We had 2 people in the in our quote unquote office, which was a bedroom in another house. But 5 people to make the film. And I'm telling you, I mean, I never felt like, I need more arms. I just didn't feel like it. It was like we were good to go because everybody was willing to do everything. There was just no dicking around. There was no nonsense. and again, it's why Skeleton Crew is the name of the company. I like when people see the movie first and then I tell them this stuff. They're like, get out of here. I'm like, no, it's true. It's true.
That's 100% right. If you'd told me before I watched this, it would be impressive. But now I'm like, holy shit, what?
Thanks, man. Thank you. So let's break it down.
I want to get back to one thing that you said that sort of got glossed over. Basically, I have a weird connection with you. It's going to be too much information, but here we go.
I'm very excited.
The night that I went from a boy to a man, I watched a little movie that used to be called Johnny Zombie.
My boyfriend's back. My boyfriend's back. You know, guys, I got to tell you, the crazy thing about
I went on.
That's all. No, and by the way, that's exactly what that movie was intended to be. Was a teenage date movie? Like that's totally the movie. Thank you. Here's the thing about Johnny Zombie, which is amazing and heartbreaking all at the same time. So Johnny Zombie was the movie I was going to make as my feature debut. That was the movie I wanted to make, and it was this like hardcore, very bloody, R-rated horror comedy. By the way, that was also a musical. We had written full musical numbers in the movie. I'm not kidding you. Where the zombies had these like zombie jamborees inside the confines of the cemetery. It was badass. And it was the whole thing. It was sort of like a very bloody Beetlejuice. That was kind of what we were doing. Nice. The other thing was, you know, for your listeners who don't know, My Boyfriend's Back. The original concept of Johnny Zombie was it's about a kid in high school, the kid that nobody tells stories about, not the nerd, not the football star, the kid in the middle, the sort of John Hughes kid who's just sort of invisible, who's just a normal guy who for one night wants to be extraordinary, just wants to have that moment in high school where the whole world looks at them and applauds and gives them the slow clap, you know? And so this kid, Johnny, decides the prom is going to be his night. And he's going to ask this girl who's his next door neighbor, who's been one of his best friends his whole life, but who he's been secretly in love with his whole growing up. He's going to ask her to go to the prom, right? He's going to ask Missy McLeod to go to the prom. And on the night that he finally gets up enough courage to do it, he is shot and killed in a convenience store holdup while protecting her. And so there he is, dying in her arms. He looks up into her eyes, tells her, you know, there's just something I wanted to ask you. She says, what? Whatever it is, what? He says, would you go to the prom with me? Now, here's the thing. This girl is never going to say no. The guy's dying in her arms, shot from protecting her from a bullet. So she says, yeah, I'll go to the prom. He dies. Well, the thing is, the local cemetery is built over an ancient Indian burial ground. So all of the people come back to life. Johnny comes back to go to the prom. Well, the thing is, if you stay within the confines of the cemetery, you will never die. You will always be a zombie inside the cemetery. But if you cross outside of the Indian burial ground, you will die within 3 days. Your body will fall apart unless you eat the flesh of the living. Problem is, the prom is in 5 nights. So Johnny now is faced with the choice of eating the flesh of the living, even though he finds that completely disgusting. The thing is, the zombies have never left the confines of the cemetery. Well, when they see Johnny be brave enough to go and be part of the world again, all the zombies leave. And they don't leave to eat the flesh of the living. They leave to live, to be with their families. Well, here's why we created this movie. And again, this is written by Dean Lorey, who was my writing partner on Jason Goes to Hell and one of my closest friends in college. We workshopped this script for 3 years.
Don's going to know why I love Dean Lorey so much.
There it is.
Now I'm realizing that I saw this when I was a kid, too, because I'm like, holy shit, I remember that movie.
Yeah.
Continue.
Here's the thing. The reason we wrote it was we wrote this in New York in the late 80s. Well, guys, I had a ton of friends die from AIDS in New York during that time. So here's the thing. I knew so many stories of these guys going back home to their families, and their families would shut the door on them, would have nothing to do with them. They were the same person. There was nothing different about them. It's just they were sick. And they were sick with a disease that you couldn't catch from them unless you swapped bodily fluids. Mm-hmm. So now we've got these zombies going home and like sitting down at the dinner table with their families, and the families are screaming and running and, shutting them out of the house and threatening them with violence. And all these people want to do is go be with the people they love. So we were telling this story about, again, like George Romero, we were telling a story about the AIDS crisis, but using zombies to tell that story, right? So we knew when I first got to Los Angeles, I actually got Roger Corman's company interested in making the movie. And the only reason I did that was I knew if I could make them interested in it, Sean Cunningham would have to have it. Like, out of just pure jealousy, he would take the movie away from them. And lo and behold, he did. And remember, at this point, guys, I was living in a car. I was living in my VW Bug. By the way, 1963 Canary Yellow VW Bug, which is the exact same car that Kevin Bacon drives in the movie Footloose. It's the only reason I bought it, because it was a total piece of shit car. Anyway, and by the way, talk about like a dumb 21-year-old move. I'm living in a VW Bug. Like, just not smart, just not a good idea. And it's a stick shift. I mean, it was just bad, guys. Everything about this was bad. So anyway, Sean Cunningham wanted to buy the script, but he hated the script, but he loved the title and he loved the idea. He was going to give me $1.5 million, and I'd go back to Westport, Connecticut, and shoot the movie up there. And but the thing is, he wanted to get a different writer. And I was like, then I won't sell it to you. If you're going to get a different writer, I'm not going to do it. I won't do it. And so he was like, man, you got some balls on you. I was like, yes, I do. I'm also loyal to my friend. He wrote this script. He's an amazing writer. I said, look, do this. Fly Dean out here. Put the two of us up in the shittiest hotel you can find. And for 6 weeks, let us address your notes. Give us 6 weeks to rewrite the movie the same way you would if it was a Writers Guild writer. And he agreed. And what's great is, I had two reasons. One, I wanted to get my friend, I wanted him to complete the writing on this movie, and I believe him as a writer. And by the way, I was right, because he's had an amazing career.
Oh,
and
yeah.
Two,
Dean is one of my writing heroes. So yes,
he's amazing.
Definitely.
He's amazing. He is amazing. We used to laughingly joke that he was George Disney, which was George Romero and Walt Disney as a guy. That was his nickname in college. But here's the thing. I also really wanted to get the fuck out of that car. So suddenly I'm in a hotel, and a decent one. He put us up at the Holiday Inn on Sunset and the 405. And we rewrote for 6 weeks, and Sean fell in love with the screenplay, right? Like, just flipped out over the script. Well, next thing you know, we have this great screenplay, but the one peril of Hollywood that anyone who's worked here for long enough will tell you, nobody reads. Nobody reads. They hire college students to read scripts and then write these little Cliff Note reports that then executives actually read those. But nobody reads the script. Nobody knows how to read a script. So I said, look, with my theater background, and Cunningham Productions had this incredible casting director, this guy Barry Moss, who Barry would he was the casting director for The Cosby Show, the entire run of The Cosby Show. I know, too soon, but The Cosby Show.
Wow.
And
hey, that's also still impressive as shit. So
it's crazy impressive. By the way, Barry Moss, if you guys remember the old Cosby Show, you remember Rudy's best friend Peter, the one who wouldn't talk, the heavyset kid who would talk. Okay, Barry Moss, the casting director of the entire series, played Peter's father in the one episode that Peter's dad comes to pick him up from Rudy's house. Peter's father never speaks. He's just like Peter. He's the
he just nods at him or something.
That's
right?
it. He's Peter, but an adult version of it, right?
That's
so
hilarious.
Barry Moss was also one of Broadway's biggest casting directors. So he knew the best people to work with. So I said to Sean, instead of trying to get executives to read the script, why don't we read it for them? And he was like, that's a good idea. By the way, if you ever hear me doing my impression of Sean Cunningham, it sounds like the Penguin, because Sean Cunningham is the Penguin. He is the supervillain, the Penguin from the Batman series. That is actually who Sean is. So
now I want to hang out with him just for that. Jeez.
I once said to him, because he was not paying us. By the way, when I say us, I mean Dean, me, and his son. We're not being paid. We were literally we had not gotten any money. And I turned to him, I said, Sean, you have to give us some money to buy some food. We have no food. And he was like, oh, what do you need food for? I'm like, oh, dude. I said, listen, I said, we have no money because you have all of the money. And his response was, it's great, isn't it? Yeah. So he is actually the Penguin. So what we planned to do was we were going to do table reads of the script for executives. And at the big reading where Disney and New Line both showed up to this reading, at this reading, I had Charlotte Rae from The Facts of Life. Remember her?
Yes.
Mrs. Garrett. She was one of the leads of this table read. I got her. By the way, she's one of Stephen Sondheim's favorite actresses. I got George Hearn, who won the Tony Award for playing Sweeney Todd on Broadway.
Wow.
And the person who was playing Johnny Zombie, who was playing Johnny, was Dean and my next door neighbor for 3 years at NYU, Adam Sandler.
Okay.
That is
Holy
no joke.
Right.
So that's the level of readers we had at this thing. Both New Line and Disney got into a bidding war for the movie. They both wanted it. And I begged Sean. I was like, Sean, please let New Line do this. New Line gets this movie. Like, please, please, please. Here's the thing. New Line was going to make like a $3 million movie and let me direct the film. Disney made an $8 million movie, and there was no way I was going to direct that movie. So here's the thing. Sean, who, again, divining rod for money, he went for the money. On the first day, we meet with Disney about the movie. And guys, it was literally like the joke in a movie of what an executive room at a movie company looks like this enormously long table with all these people in suits, all smiling at you, perfectly coiffed. And they're all like, we love this film. We're putting this on the fast track. This movie's fantastic. We're getting it right to green light. We've only got one note. And we were like, one note? Shit, we've been locked in a hotel room for 6 weeks writing. Yeah, what do you, any note you got? They said, right, can you lose the zombies?
What?
And we were like,
that's not one note. That's the whole thing.
I was like, what do you mean lose the zombies? They said, the zombies. We think they're superfluous. I was like, but the movie's called Johnny Zombie. They said, oh, right, about that. Could he seem, I don't know, like less dead and more like tired? Swear to God, that was the note. I was like,
he kind of does. Wow.
He really does. He looks tired the whole movie. I'm like, boy, that's so
I had no idea. I was
funny.
Just watching an adult version of myself.
So
Jesus.
yeah, that's when I came back to Sean Cunningham and said, okay, I want nothing to do with this movie. I'm going to take my money as an associate producer. Give me a movie. And that's when he said, okay, if you can get the fucking hockey mask out of the movie, I'll let you write and direct the next Jason film. And I was like, okay, that's a crazy request, but I will. Yes, whatever you need me to do. Got it. And that's how Jason Goes to Hell happened. But Johnny Zombie, guys, I mean, the movie that could have been, I mean, I wanted to make like the cult classic of all time. And instead we made, kind of a sweet little Disney movie that, by the way, there's a generation of teenagers who freaking love that film. So we did great. I mean, it's like, yay, good for them. But I can tell you, we were posting both movies. We were doing the post-production on Jason Goes to Hell and Johnny Zombie at the same time in the same post house. And Dean would keep leaving the post on Johnny Zombie because he had to keep writing all these monologues, all this voiceover for the movie to like fix the movie because it was a disaster. And he would come into my mixing stage and hide. I'm not kidding, like under the table. And he'd be like, I don't want to go back to the bad movie anymore. Let me stay here with the good movie. I'm like, okay, you can stay here all you want. So true story.
And that's amazing. The movie you just described, I want to see that. I want to see a bloodier Beetlejuice even. That sounds great in itself. Although clearly, as I just said, I'll always have a soft spot in my heart for my boyfriend's back. But
no, and that is look, guys. Look, I wrote. My wife and I wrote Texas Chainsaw, and I will tell you, like the movie they made, legit. I get it. It ain't our script. I mean, it is not our screenplay. Our screenplay didn't have, a smartphone in 3 because they didn't exist. And we never wrote the line, do your thing, cuz. Like that, oh God, it makes me like die a little inside each time I hear that line. But here's the thing. People love that movie. So I'm like, okay, great. Like that's awesome. But it's also that movie in particular, Texas Chainsaw, is the movie that made Deb and I go, yeah, this is for the birds. I'm done. I'm done with people being like mad at us for shit in a movie that we didn't create, but our name is on it as the writer. Somebody goes, well, they wrote it. I'm like, well, no, we didn't write that. It's sort of like when people get pissed off at me that the name Voorhees is misspelled on the mailbox of the Voorhees house. And I'm like, oh, right. I forgot. I was painting the mailboxes. That's what directors do. We get out there and we detail the set. That's what we do. That's our job. Oh, that's right. Sean Cunningham, the guy who created the whole thing, he was sitting right next to me when we did that shot. He was literally over one shoulder. So it's my fault. By the way, you guys will not believe when you finally see the documentary that we're making about Jason Goes to Hell, Hearts of Darkness, the making of the Final Friday, which is happening right now. You guys will not believe how that mailbox got misspelled. And I will tell you, every hater can kiss my ass in Macy's window. When they hear how that happened and who's responsible for the misspelling, they will all be apologized. You can't imagine. Like, it will suddenly become one of those things where like, oh, that's not a big deal.
Right.
And it's haunted me for 27 years.
Wow. I can't wait.
It's dude, awesome. I couldn't when I wasn't on set the day that it happened, when production realized what had happened and how that happened, they called me. I was here. They called me to say, you will not believe who just said they're responsible for that mailbox. And when they told me, I'm telling you, I almost cried for joy. Because like, oh, this is the greatest thing ever, because it totally screws the haters. It screws them. It's so good. So good. Anyway, sorry to go on a tangent, but it's a fun one.
No apology needed for that.
No. No, that's fantastic, man. I guess we should get to the film, though, huh? My first thing with this film is just how much I enjoy, and this is a total writing thing with me, but every fucking character in this is so individualized and yet somehow completely universal. I want to commend you on that. That's fucking hard to do. To make something that's universal and make it feel fresh, that's universal as fuck. Even the things that aren't quite cliches, but we see them a lot, you twisted the shit out of them to where they're fun, and I enjoyed the living shit out of your characters, man. I'm going to need like a 3-season show of these people that plays people.
Well, it'll have to be a prequel, but you know.
Totally. Yeah. No kidding. We do have a sequel in mind that would be Secret Santa 2 Hippity Hoppity. Which would take place during Easter in a church, and you can just imagine how profane that's going to get. But no, you know what? Thank you. That means the world to me, actually. Look, and it should mean the world to any writer who hears that. That's the highest compliment you can get. Is for me, where I come from with all movies. Character has to come first. Look, one of the other reasons why I'm not a huge sequel guy from a directing standpoint. I love sequel. I love horror movies. So, you can't love horror movies and not love sequels. I do love them. But here's the difference. The first feature in any of these, the big tent poles, Friday the 13th, Nightmare on Elm Street, Texas Chainsaw. The movies are terrifying. Like, those first films are just scary. I mean, Friday the 13th, the original, is a little boring by now, by these standards. But you look at Halloween, you look at Nightmare on Elm Street. Nightmare on Elm Street is so scary. I remember being in a packed movie theater. People were hiding behind the seat in front of them. They were so frightened. I mean, it was just frightening. The reason is because the characters, you're with the heroes. You're not with the villains. You love the people in the movie. You don't want them to die. I mean, nobody goes to see Jaws and cheers the shark. They're cheering for Chief Brody and Quint and Richard Dreyfuss, and like, that's who they're cheering for.
Right.
So the problem with most horror films is that the characters become these kind of stock cartoony characters, that you're just waiting to watch them get killed. You just want to see them get killed, and you hope the death is some insane, gruesome, crazy kill. And so for me, the toughest thing has been, by doing the 9th film in the Friday 13th series, by doing Texas Chainsaw, which, was really a direct sequel to the original, because we were sort of retconning the mess that is the Texas Chainsaw franchise. We had to do sequels, but I kept saying, guys, can we please love the heroes and let the monster be a shark in the water? Which, by the way, to give the devil their due, that's all from Sean Cunningham. Sean Cunningham's the one who always said to me, like, make it a shark. Don't make it, don't make the villain somebody that you're cheering for. That's a big mistake. And he's right. Because the only way for something to remain scary is that it's not the thing we're cheering for. We're afraid of that thing. You never cheer for the thing you're frightened of. Mm-hmm. So with Secret Santa in particular, I wanted the characters to be as alive and as real and as personal as they could be. The other thing, and James, I'm sure, and by the way, both of you are writers, so both of you, I'm sure, know this. I wrote people that I knew, that I understood.
Mm-hmm. Right? Yeah.
And I also had the luxury of knowing who my actors were. So I knew what my cast could do before I wrote one word. So having a person to write to, having a person in your head that this is the person I'm writing for, and then writing to a voice that not only makes sense to you as a character you understand, but also, like when I was writing Penny, I knew it was Ryan Seaton. Ryan Seaton is a genius. She's a brilliant actor. And I knew what she could do. Like, I just knew what she was going to be able to do. I knew what my wife, what Deborah, was going to be able to pull off. Like, I knew exactly this is the thing that this is it's like when you're writing a piece of music for a singer, you don't write outside their range. You write to their range. And that's literally what I did for every one of those actors. Drew Lynch, has a stutter. Like, he's a stutterer. He's the stuttering comic from America's Got Talent. And he was a student of mine for 10 years. By the way, he was my student before he got the stutter, before the accident that gave him the stutter. So here's a guy that I know, okay, he's a stutterer. So that's what I'm going to write to. I wrote the stuttering into the script. Now, I did say to him, I said, you stutter on the words you need to stutter on. It's fine. But I'm writing it into the screenplay. And it's written in the screenplay. The stammer is written right into the dialogue. Because even that has to have a rhythm. And again, Drew is, he's not gay. So that's something that was written into the character for him. But it's all stuff that I went, you're going to connect to this stuff. Like I know who he is as a person. And I knew emotionally he'll connect to this character. He'll connect to what he's going through. And he did. Boy, did he. His big freak out in the middle of the movie, beyond being one of my favorite things I've ever shot. When I wrote it, I designed it knowing this guy's going to get an applause break. Like, I wanted to have an audience applaud in the middle of the movie. I have played this film in, 4 continents and like 8 countries in those continents. And it has, in every language it's played in, it has gotten an applause break at that moment. Every single time. Every time.
That's awesome.
It's amazing.
Wow.
How many?
It's a great scene.
Yeah. Thank you. How many movies do you know where people in the audience actually applaud the movie? And I've had, 30 screenings of the movie around the world that every single time people have applauded that scene. So, yeah, that's, but that comes from knowing your cast, knowing who you're writing to, and really knowing the people in your movie. That's the best way to end up with that result.
Yeah, great thing to be able to do. Like, I cast in my head, but it's not the same thing. Like,
no.
When I wrote Fat Camp, like, so much of it is like real conversations I had with my friends, either growing up or in college or whatever else.
Totally.
But it's like, how would Scott say this if he was an Asian kid, Like,
right. Yeah.
And it shines through. Like, everybody tells me how great the characters are and how well developed they are. And I'm like, well, that's because they're real people in a way. They weren't necessarily in a fit camp for overweight teenage boys getting slaughtered, but it's something. And so being able to actually, this is the person that's going to do it. Wow.
I couldn't agree more. And look, let's be honest. I mean, the reason why television has become why we're having this second golden age of TV right now, well, it's because it's all character. I mean, I joke with people about, you watch an entire season of Game of Thrones, there's maybe 40 minutes of action in the entire season. The rest of it is people walking and talking. Just talking. Mm-hmm. They're just talking. I mean, look, The Walking Dead, holy crap. Like, could they walk anymore? Oh, my God. There's just so much.
They literally stop for seasons at a time.
Yes.
Season 2, they just sit on a farm hanging out.
That's it. And they just talk. But here's the thing. That talk is gold. Right. Because that's the stuff that makes us care when the shit hits the fan. So when the shit hits the fan, you're like, no, you can't take Herschel. I love Herschel. That's the trick.
I mean, at least his death was really good.
Yep.
I always joke that if I start caring about somebody, their contract must be up.
Yes. Yep. Yeah, it's true. It's true. Well, and the thing is, with Game of Thrones, you always knew in the penultimate episode of each season, okay, here they go. They're just about to kill the one person I fucking care about. Oh, there they go. Bye. Every season. Every damn season. It got to a point where it's like, now it's a formula, and I know you're going to do it, so I kind of don't give a shit anymore. That's why I kind of fell out with that show. Eventually, they got me back, and then they lost me again at that ending.
Thank you.
Yeah, dude, come on now. Come on. But, I mean, season 3 and 4, I was like, what am I watching now? Like, this is cruel and ugly, and why do I give a shit? I mean, I don't care because you're just doing it to be cruel and ugly. Got it. But the greatness of television is character. And movies have to start remembering that's why people love the movies. There's a reason we don't have any movie stars anymore. We don't. We really don't. We have people that we know, but you know what? Tom Cruise and Keanu Reeves are still the only 2 movie stars. I mean, movie stars. We never hear about Tom Cruise. We rarely hear about Keanu Reeves except for how nice a guy he is. But we're not inundated with them. And when they pick a project, they pick characters that are so interesting to play, that are so unique and fascinating and funny and smart and better than us. And there's so few of those movies anymore. Look, I mean, like for me, one of my favorite actors is Frances McDormand, right? I just adore her. But if you look at her work, if you look at the character she chooses to play, well, no kidding. No kidding. I love Kathy Bates because she plays incredible characters. She doesn't pick work where she's just sort of nebulous and it's not really a thing, So I think I agree with you entirely, James, that I feel like big budget films, I think films in general have lost sight, a tremendous sight of how important character is. And not to land in a place that feels cliched.
Right.
Because if you write specific, you will find 100 times more people that connect to that person, the more specific it is. You watch, like, let's say, yeah. Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
Oh, no, I was going to say, and that's the strength I found with every one of the characters in this film was that it didn't matter who it was. I mean, even Jacqueline, she just seems very one-dimensional until later in the film, you're like, holy shit, I want to know more. Because I mean, just everyone that's there, you can see there is a major backstory with each one of them. Even starting with the dad and him showing up because he wasn't supposed to show up, and it just the tension that it can create and the idea like I fucking paid for this house and if I want to see my kids during Christmas, I'm going to see my kids during Christmas. And you see all those conflicts coming up where, people are taking sides, but then they also have shit going on with their own lives that they brought with them to this table, or they've tried to hide from this table in the case of Drew and Kyle and Gordon. Where they've got their secret and they're keeping it to themselves because you almost get that sense that like when your own family, you don't want them to know everything about you because you've seen how they talk about other people around you. So I'm not going to give you any ammunition to use against me.
Yep. No, it's true. Look, and it's also why the movie's called Secret Santa, because every person in the movie has got a secret they're hiding. Yes, there's a game of Secret Santa happening, but it's about the secrets they keep. And each one of those characters, literally every single one of them, has a horrible fucking secret. However, it's horrible only in your own mind, because the secret that, the Kyle that Drew Lynch is carrying is not a horrible secret. It's just he thinks it's a horrible secret. He's imposed that on himself. And Jacqueline has her secret. And again, that's not a horrible secret. That's actually kind of a great secret. But again, it's something that she thinks she will be demoralized by if people know that. By the way, I don't know if you guys noticed, but the company, each movie is made with its own LLC company. The company that made Secret Santa is called Bonbons.
Nice Easter egg.
Yes. For popsicle and bonbons. So no, it's true. I mean, and again, knowing what each person's secret was, because I knew the secrets before we started writing on that first day. I knew what each person's secret was going to be. Knowing those secrets going in says a lot about that person, because the fact that Kyle has this self-inflicted secret, well, that tells you everything you need to know about that kid. Mm-hmm. The fact that April has this secret about when she was a teenager and what she did to her sister, that's an enormous secret. And again, April is going through a 12-step program. So April doesn't need any kind of sodium pentothal to get her to tell the truth. She wants to tell the truth. That's what she's there to do.
Right.
So it again, no. And by the way, even when you're working with actors, one of the best things for actors to have, even in a movie where they don't reveal a secret, is if you talk to an actor in pre-production and you talk about the character, if you get to a place where they have a secret, where there's one thing they've never revealed to the world, but it's their own personal thing, even if they never reveal it in the movie, that character's secret ends up having so much tension in the performance. It's such a good thing for an actor to have. Actors love having secrets. Like, they love it. It's like their favorite thing. If you let them have that, suddenly they've got something that shows up in their eyes. It shows up in the way they deliver things, but that secret becomes part of the character. And so for me, being able to write characters that have secrets it makes the job 10 times easier, and it's so much more fun.
Yeah, I think that's true about real life. We all carry our own things that we don't want anyone else to know.
Yeah.
And it affects things, whether you think it does or not.
Yeah.
So, yeah, automatically better writing, more realistic. But, man, I'm glad you pointed that out, because people need to pay attention to it.
Absolutely.
I have a question. One of my favorite things in this film is a direct reference to The Thing. I just want to know, how much did The Thing influence this overall? Like, was it a driving force, or like something that came up during production and you added it?
The line is in the script, just so you know. It wasn't added, it wasn't improvised. It's from the first draft. The thing about The Thing, The Thing not only is one of the most influential movies for my work, but also it is one of my all-time favorite screenplays. I don't know if you've ever read the script, Bill Lancaster's script, but it's so brilliantly written. And by the way, this is the same guy who wrote Unforgiven. I mean, this guy he's a badass. But when you read the original script of The Thing, the first page of the script is the characters in the movie, just all the guys, their name, their age, and one line that describes their personality in total. Okay? It is the greatest page I've ever read from any screenwriter. And my screenwriting hero is William Goldman, always has been. But when I read this one page, it truly taught me, if I can't describe my character, and I'm not talking about their height, their weight, their hair color, fuck all that. If I can't describe my character as a person and their entire personality in one sentence, I don't know my character yet. Stop writing. Okay. Just stop writing. There's nothing to write. So that script taught me to be brutal with myself in saying, the first time I introduce that human being, I better know everything there is to know about that person before I describe them. And that's something that came out of The Thing. The other thing about The Thing is, a lot of people, because of Jason Goes to Hell, think I was hugely influenced by the movie The Hidden. Well, that was impossible because I hadn't seen the movie The Hidden. So while there are incredible similarities, and by the way, Jack Shoulder, who directed The Hidden, he was interviewed by the director who's doing the documentary about Jason Goes to Hell, and he had never seen Jason Goes to Hell, so he showed it to him. And Jack Shoulder, he shot his reaction, and Jack Shoulder starts to laugh, and he looks at the camera and goes, "Well, I guess we can call it an homage." So Jack is even really cool about it. But here's the thing: Jason Goes to Hell's biggest influence was The Thing, because the whole idea of you don't know who's the shark. That to me is so exciting. It's why Invasion of the Body Snatchers is so remarkable. It's why movies where you just don't know where the killer is, and that the killer can be your wife or your best friend or your mother. That's terrifying. So I love that idea. And Secret Santa is definitely who's the shark now? So there's definitely that element in Secret Santa. I tried to capitalize on that. And by the way, I'm also a filmmaker who is not afraid to actually say, this is my influence. Mm-hmm. I'm willing to, and by the way, I'm not going to pull a Tarantino where I rip off the entire plot and structure of somebody else's work and then go, but it's my jam. No, I'm the one who says, no, these filmmakers, I try to make this as unique and my own as possible, but these are the voices that made me the filmmaker I am. And I'm always going to honor those people, always. I mean, by the way, there is a nod to the movie Coming to America in Secret Santa, because Coming to America is one of the most influential comedies in my life. So when Gordon, says, two white bitches and a knife, fuck you, fuck you, fuck you, yon yon. That's right out of Coming to America. That's literally out of that movie. So, and by the way,
I laughed so hard at that.
Thank you, man. Well, by the way, that guy, Freddie James, the guy who plays Gordon the cook, Freddie James is the stunt coordinator of the entire film.
Wow.
Freddie James is my stunt coordinator. This is what's crazy. So I told you guys earlier, I have my own acting studio, and I've been teaching these people forever. We do on Wednesday. I teach 2 nights a week, Tuesdays and Wednesdays. And on Wednesday, before class, we hold an hour and a half fight club, which is Freddie training all of my actors to do all of their own stunt work, not just on my movies, but on any movie. We just do stunt training every week. And even I do the stunt training. And here's the thing. There's over 200 stunts in Secret Santa. All of them were done by the people in the movie. There are no stuntmen. That's the team. And by the way, the guy who plays Jackson, Nate Hedrick, Hedrick, if you ever come out to Los Angeles and you go to the Universal Studios tour, the theme park, the Universal theme park, they have a Waterworld show, this huge Waterworld show, right? He plays the Dennis Hopper character. He plays the villain. He does high falls, 55-foot high falls every day, 8 times a day in that show.
Holy shit.
All of my people are trained within an inch of their lives. They are unbelievable. And they can, by the way, Ryan Seaton, Penny, does all the jumping, punching, throwing, falling, all of it. That's all her. That is her doing that.
Wow. That's cool.
So that's, but again, and by the way, not one injury on my set. Not one. Not a hangnail. Nothing. And that comes from the fact that they are trained like crazy. And Freddie James, he's like Bob Kurtzman. I cannot make a movie without these guys. That they are my right and left hands. And Freddie's been working with me for about 15 years now. And he's a genius, and no one ever gets hurt.
That's remarkable.
Yeah,
absolutely. Yeah.
I was so worried about Jacqueline with that Christmas tree star. So
right. By the way, so funny when we were shooting that moment with the star. We had to shoot it. We had to shoot a couple different plates and stuff, and so one of the things we had to do was we had to do just the blood shooting out of her mouth, right? Mm-hmm. And so when we went to go do that, there had been a kink in the line in the because we had a line around the side of her head that you can't see that goes into her mouth with an apparatus that shoots the blood out of her mouth. But the kink in the line kept making the blood shoot in the wrong direction, which was hilarious. So I've got all the takes. We have a behind the scenes. This is actually in the documentary, but there's a shot of this happening. And at one point you just hear, each time you hear Bob Kurtzman, fuck, damn it. Oh, for God's sakes, Marcy, get the kink out of that line. Like each time there's a thing, right? And the last take you just hear, oh, I like those pants. It's like one of my favorite moments. It's one of my favorite moments of my entire career was Bob Kurtzman ruining his own pants with the bloodline that didn't work. It's pretty amazing.
Oh, man.
Yeah.
All right.
Oh, blood.
What do you have in your notes that you want to talk about? Any specific questions or directions you want to go?
I don't. I mean, I've just been enjoying this conversation. I mean, I guess the questions I could have. And this was the only thing that bothered me about the movie.
Please.
Only thing.
No, go ahead.
I wanted to know what the hell the other Secret Santa gifts were. After everybody's dead, I'm sitting there thinking, like, I wonder who else, because just the anticipation and the tension being driven up with those first few gifts, and then the Uncle Carter having like, oh, that sounds like a lesbian thing. That sounds like the same thing. And then they kind of figure out what's going on because that secret about having sex with the stepson and
totally.
And then Penny's gift. I'm sorry, April's gift to Penny to make up for her missing out on the trip when she was in high school. And I'm just sitting there, like, I want to know what the rest of the gifts were, because if you've already got some, in some estimations, kind of a petty makeup gift. Or a wink wink and a nudge gift. I'm like, what the hell else was going to be out there? Plus, I hated the fact that Ty. This was the moment that I did not like Ty in the movie.
Sure.
Because initially I was thinking like, oh, he's this guy who's being dragged to his girlfriend's house, and maybe they'll get married down the road. But he's already seeing how fucked up the family is, and then he proposes to April. And I'm thinking to myself, like, you need to die. You need to die from this moment on in the movie. You do not need to survive, because that is you're ignoring all the warning signs right now, sir.
Well, the fun, especially at that dinner table sequence, is there's several things. And again, if you see it with an audience, it's because it was built as an audience movie. Like, that's just the way I always make things with an audience in mind. But the fun of the movie is that there's this constant sort of laughter over like the horrible things that people are saying to each other, the constant sort of passive aggressive bullshit that's happening. And it's fast, like it's jokes per second, which is kind of the idea, until finally it comes careening to a halt when someone goes one step too far. Like when Shari, she says, I work my finger to the bone for these children. And what do I get? One daughter who stops drinking and is meaner than a hornet, and the other one who stops eating and is still as fat as a house. And the whole table goes silent. And in every theater we played the movie in, the entire audience goes, oh. It's like this one has not stopped being horrible at that table, but that's the bridge too far.
Right.
And then by design, the next time that happens is when poor Michael Rady is proposing to April, and suddenly in the middle of this like really pretty, lovely proposal in the ring, and her eyes light up, suddenly Penny starts choking on a pecan and just spits it out on her plate. That is designed as the next, like, oh my God. And again, you will see an entire audience, their shoulders curl up, their hand goes to their eyes as though they can't see it. What the general effect was, look, when you're doing a movie as low budget as we did, and again, Bob Kurtzman did incredible effects for the movie. I mean, it's insane. Consider we had no money. It's insane. But here's the thing. When you don't have the money for the kind of effects that I usually do, let's say on Jason Goes to Hell or something like that, when you don't have that cash, you have to let the dialogue actually be the knives.
Right.
That has to be the brutality. So there's a ton of dialogue in there that's designed to have this sort of crescendo effect and land on something so fucking hideous. There was one review we got out of England, and it was one of my favorites, where the critic had said, this movie becomes a lot less violent when everybody starts stabbing each other and stops talking.
Yes.
And I'm like, yeah, that's accurate.
That's a great review.
Isn't that great? By the way, my favorite review came out of Glasgow, but it was two Scotsmen who had written the review. Scott and Liam versus Evil is the name of their podcast, and they gave the movie 9 out of 10 skull fucks, and it's the happiest I've ever been to get a 9 out of 10. So no, this is, look, by the way, even that scene, Jackson's, big moment. I know that there have been other films that have done something sort of off camera, something similar to that. But I was like, no. I want to show this full up. And this guy has warned somebody a couple times in the movie this was going to happen. And then he actually does it. And people simply can't believe what they're looking at. They just can't believe. Like, are they really going to do this?
Yeah.
Yes. And then one of my favorite lines in the entire movie. Come on now. It's not gay if he's dead.
Right.
Come on. By the way, that became a hashtag out of London Fright Fest. Hashtag it's not gay if he's dead. Nate Hedrick has never been so proud.
That.
Isn't that amazing? Isn't that amazing? I loved it. I was so excited.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah. But by the way, what I can tell you is we did know what the presents were, and I don't know all of them off the top of my head, but I can tell you this. There's a hint to one of them at the end of the film in the morning when you see the camera gliding over all of the boxes. There's one box, a gold box with red ribbon. And the ribbon on it says C's, which is C's candy. Okay.
Yeah.
Right. Now, I want you to imagine there's a character at that table who just bought her sister $15,000 Christmas present. Right. There's another person at the table who's complaining about the prices of the gifts. Okay. There's a box of C's chocolate on the gift table. Wrapped. Okay. And by the way, remember that person, and it's right in the dialogue, that person has lost 20 pounds in the last year because he got an exercise band the year before. Right. So an exercise band at that time, was a few $100, right? For a decent one. So here's a guy who lost 20 pounds and has now bought someone else chocolate for their Secret Santa gift, and the only reason he bought it is because he's going to eat half that box. So there was psychology even behind the presents that were never gifted at the table because things ran amok.
That's great.
So yeah, we did figure out everybody's gifts, So yeah, at least we always had the game plan, but again, that goes along with the whole idea of secrets. And I had actually the actors who had to get gifts for other people at the table that never got revealed, that never got opened. I had all of them go out and actually figure out what their present was and buy the present for another person. So that did happen. Yeah.
Either of you, what has been your experience with Secret Santas?
Oh, you mean actual Secret Santas?
Oh, yes.
Okay. Remember the necklace that Jacqueline gets?
Yes.
That crazy fucking hideous thing? We had to reproduce the actual necklace my wife was gifted at a Secret Santa at our house. It's the exact same necklace. We had to get an artist to come in and redo it because my wife threw out that fucking hideous necklace. And when we went to make the movie, I was like, Deb, where's that necklace my mom got you? And she's like, "Are you fucking kidding me?" I was like, "No, where is it?" She goes, "I threw that piece of shit away. Are you crazy?"
I just love that it was from your mom.
Oh, hell yeah. Oh, no. My wife had to put that necklace on at the dinner table. My brother Kip and I almost peed ourselves trying not to laugh.
That's amazing.
Because it looked like it was attacking her throat. It was like a necklace that looked like some sort of horrible alien spore that was going to kill her. So, yeah.
Oh, my God.
Yeah. So, my experience with Secret Santa games is literally in the movie. It's right there.
Oh, I love that.
Yeah.
So I used to work at this place where everybody hated each other, and for some reason my manager thought it would be a great idea to do Secret Santa. Well, this degenerated very, very fucking quickly, and even though some of us had already bought gifts, or made gifts, as I'm about to tell you, they decided we had to do a white elephant instead. Well, so the person I had drawn in the Secret Santa was somebody that made my life a living hell every fucking day, and just hated me. And, so I took a picture of myself giving a thumbs up. I printed it at work. I signed it to my best friend. Thanks for the memories, James Sabata. I took this 8x10. I put it in a document frame. That way even the frame wouldn't be good, right? And because again, I thought I was giving it to this person that hated me. Well, so then it turns into a white elephant gift instead. And I'm like, well, fuck it. I already made this and it's already wrapped. So whatever. So I took it, and ironically, one of the coworkers that I really loved actually got it in the white elephant, and it hung on her wall until the day that she left working there.
That is awesome. That is a great story, by the way. That's amazing.
So yeah. So
wow. That's like a scene out of The Office. That's really good. It's really good.
What about you, Don? Do you have any?
I have one that comes to mind, and I think since it's been long enough, the statute of limitations has been met. But no, we were doing a Secret Santa at one of the places I was working when I was in college, and it was just me, and because it was Bath and Body Works, it was me and like 20 women. Mm-hmm. So it was one of those things of, hey, whoever wants to get on this can get on it, blah blah blah. And I immediately thought, like, okay, well, I guess I'm the assistant manager, so I'm going to be in charge of the Secret Santa thing. Mm-hmm. The manager thought one of the girls liked me and was trying to set us up the entire time. And we had this Secret Santa where, like, 10 of us decided to be part of it because we'd been there longer than just the holiday season. It was my job to pick the people for Secret Santa, like who was going to get who. It wasn't supposed to be random, it was supposed to be random, but I laid it out in a certain way to where I figured, well, if this girl likes me, I'm going to give her me for Secret Santa. And she ended up buying me some, because you had to put on the list, like, what your interests are and things like that. So she bought me some cool stuff and all these other things. And I was like, okay, well, she's interested. So we ended up going out for a couple of years and then we broke up. Another time that I was involved in
That's not where I thought that story was going.
No.
Yeah, me too, man. Especially at Bath and Body Works. I'm just saying. I mean, Bath and Body Works, like there was some lotion or something was going to get inappropriate. Go ahead.
Oh, well, it's not that I wasn't hoping that it wouldn't have gone that way. It was just, I was like, well, she likes me. And because it was that stupid, like, early 20s brain where you kind of like, well, if this girl likes me, this is her chance to show me. And so
I don't even know what to say to that.
It was early 20s. I was stupid, and I thought things like that. If she likes me, man, she's gonna get me something nice. The $20 limit be damned. The other time was I was working as a teacher in the Atlanta area. We had Secret Santas, and basically whatever teacher you got was the person you bought. The same rules applied, but that person was supposed to bring you something like, I guess, like one day a week for the 3 weeks leading up till Christmas. The kids all knew.
How much money you guys made?
Well,
oh my God. And they wonder why the education system is breaking down in America. Holy crap. Here's some fucking homework for all you teachers. Well done.
Well, the kids all knew who had who because there are a good number of teachers, and I've been guilty of this as well, where you talk around the students or to the students about stuff that's really none of their business. Nothing inappropriate, but just stuff that's not their business. And because the kids knew, teachers were doing Secret Santa, and they were like, "Oh, Mr. G, you want to know who's got you?" And I'm like, "Not really." And before they can even respond to be saying, "Not really," it's Miss Johnson. And I'm like, I really didn't need to know that. These kids then became so fucking inappropriate. He was like, Mr. G, she's your Secret Santa. I know what she could give you for Christmas.
I'm like, God. Oh my God.
No, we're not having this conversation. And so because this was a high school, and some of the older male students, man, she's got a big booty, Mr. G. You might have to talk to her. Because, if she's going to be your Secret Santa, I know there's a gift she could give you. And I'm sitting like, I'm not having this conversation with.
Wow.
And they're like, Mr. G, who do you have? I was like, I'm not going to tell you. Come on, Mr. G, we told you who you had. I was like, yeah. And so every time I saw this woman, it just got so fucking awkward because, after it was revealed who your Secret Santa was, like she showed up and like there was a Muscle and Fitness magazine that she left behind, and there was like Reese's peanut butter cups, and I'm like, oh shit, the stuff I like to read in my spare time because I like to exercise, and my favorite candy, and then there was like a thumb drive. I got so nervous.
Dude, this story is becoming like an episode of Euphoria. Holy crap.
Yeah. I got extremely nervous when the thumb drive showed up because I'm like, what the fuck is on here? Is there naked pictures of her on here? Because there were other teachers, because this is unfortunately what I discovered in working in the school. There are some teachers that are very free with each other. Mm-hmm. I checked the thumb drive, and thankfully there was nothing on it. Oh. But I was extremely nervous that
I bet
I'm gonna plug this into my work computer, and it's gonna be like, I guess the equivalent today would be an OnlyFans, but it would be like some risque like video of herself, pretending to be a cam girl.
Dude, and my brain immediately goes to like Jigsaw appears up on your screen,
We heard you talking about her booty. Would you like to play a game?
Make your choice. I'm like, uh-oh.
Yeah, it became, and then the kids were horrendous for like the weeks leading up, because after she dropped the first one, you knew it was her, so there was no hiding it. And so every week, like she would show up to the door if she had a student, because she was a case manager or something. She would show up looking for a student, like, you don't have to lie. We know you're here to talk to him. Go on, Mr. G. Go on, spit some game to her. I'm like, what the fuck is wrong with you guys? Mm-hmm. No, we're not doing this. But yeah, it was a fun Secret Santa.
It's awesome.
I just can't imagine anybody thinking that you can spit game.
I can't. I was literally hit on at a football game. I took my mom because Washington was playing the Phoenix or Arizona, whatever. They were playing. We were sitting there at the football game. This woman walks up to me and she's like, "You look hot." And I'm thinking to myself, like, yeah, it is kind of warm here. And I start wiping my fucking brow. And she starts talking to me and starts trying to deliver some lines and stuff, right? And she's like, "No, I think you're the hottest man I've seen in a long time." And I'm like, "Oh, okay, thank you." And then my mom, who's sitting right next to me, she's like, "What the fuck is wrong with you?" It's like, what are you talking about? She's like, "That woman was trying to talk to you. She's probably gonna give you your name. You might as well, try." And I'm like, "Mom, I am married, and my wife just married a child."
That story just got really dark, dude. That got dark.
No,
your mom is trying to hook you up, and you're married? Holy shit, man.
Oh, but wait, there's more. I tell her that, and my mom's like, "It can't hurt. I mean, you got to be polite and at least talk to her." We get home, I tell my wife this, right? I'm like, "This happened. This woman said this." And my wife was like, well, did you get her number or not?
Yeah, I knew it was coming, dude. I knew it. It's awesome.
I was like, are you kidding me? I was like, I didn't know I had that freedom. What's going on?
You got some progressive females around you, brother. That's awesome. Well done.
I'm
well
like,
done,
you
sir.
sent her to the game to talk to me. This was a trust exercise.
Smart.
Oh man. So, oh my God. Back a little bit. I want to just ask Don, what is your favorite kill in this film?
Oh, shit. You know what? I'm gonna go with 3 because I can't decide between the ones. When Uncle Carter gets killed right at the table, because you feel it's coming, but then you know that's what sparks everything at that moment, right?
Yeah.
Gets stabbed right the neck with the fork, because we've all been at those dinners where you're sitting there and people are saying some things. There might be a heated conversation. Somebody might piss you off, and you're sitting there and you're thinking, there are forks and knives right in front of me. I could fucking kill you so easily. But I love the way that Leonard, the dad, just immediately, like, boom, just stabs him.
Yep.
The other two for the aesthetics and then what they lead up to is when Jackson kills Ty with the shovel and then carries his head around and does that. But then also just when Jackie gets killed with the Christmas star.
Sure.
Because for me, when that star first falls, I'm expecting the two sisters, like, one is going to pick it up and kill the other one with it.
Right.
But the fact that it's not until, the last 20 minutes of the film and that star comes back out of nowhere. There's no moment
That's
where...
what makes it great. Yes.
I just loved it. I mean, there was no foreshadowing with it, because the foreshadowing that was there made you think it was going to go in one direction. Yep. But enough time has gone by where you're like, well, fuck it. I guess the star is not going to get used. These two ladies been fighting each other and this one killed this one. Oh, man.
What about yours, James?
Yeah, I was going to go with the fork at the table as well. It's just so gratifying, And even though it's a horror film and it could happen, you don't really expect it to go there. It's almost like it's too much to kick things off, but that's what makes it great. It's further than you would expect, but then you think, this is the first one, so where the fuck are we going from here? That's what I like about it. Yeah.
No, it goes from 0 to 11 quick. That's kind of the idea. Yeah. And also the fun wordplay of, fork you, is definitely, it's definitely in there. So even though nobody says it, it's what I want the brain of the people watching it to say. So, yeah. No, that's good.
All right.
That's good.
What about you, Adam?
For me, it's interesting. There are kills in there that I have an affinity for because of the fun it took to do them. I will say Jacqueline's death is probably, just from a graphic standpoint, it was the first death I thought of before I even started writing. I was like, I want someone to get killed with a Christmas star. Like, that has to happen. And it comes from a place. I mean, I tried to set it up so early in the movie that, yes, you don't realize that's going to happen. But when it does happen, you're like, fuck, the Christmas star fell, and it fell right next to that person laying on the ground. Like, it's exactly the thing she would use. The other thing, for me, when Kyle ends up doing what he does to Penny, the gross out factor of that is so over the top. It's so fucking disgusting. And I have to tell you, like, again, poor Ryan Seaton. I mean, Ryan Seaton, there's that moment when the Stark thing happens, where Ryan Seaton gets spattered in the face with blood. And again, remember, I told you that line had a kink in it. Well, when Bob was spraying each person in the face with the blood, we hit Drew Lynch with the blood. It got a little mist on his face. We hit A. Leslie. It misted in her face. We got to Ryan, and that kink happened, so it popped. Literally, she got douched in blood. And right in her eyes, like, it just went everywhere. And I'm telling you, she's such a pro that until I said cut, she didn't react in a actory way. She was still in character.
Oh.
And when Drew has to, do what he does to Ryan at the end of the movie, Ryan got up off the floor, looked at me and goes, "Are we done with shoving stuff in my face? Are we done?" I was like, "Yeah, we're done. You're good. You're good to go." And then the very next thing we did, we made a short for Women in Horror Month Blood Drive about a year later called Nerd Girls, which is about women who run a comic book shop. But there's a whole episode that we did, which was these women fighting off a nest of vampires at a club, sort of Blade style. And it's fun. It's a really fun short. I'll share it with you guys. But awesome. Ryan Seaton played one of the characters, and at one point I just shot all this blood in her face, and it's in slow motion, and she just goes, "Well, fuck my life," and it's not her dialogue. She just said it. And it's amazing when it happens. And like the camera turned off, she looked at me. She goes, "Okay, so this is our deal now. Like everything I do with you, you're just gonna like fill my face with blood." I said, "Yeah, it's kind of a thing. I'm putting it in everything." I want to find a romantic comedy for her where I just shoot blood in her face constantly. So no, again, when you're on set,
challenge accepted.
Yeah, right. When you're on set and you're actually experiencing these moments with people, it's like. It's sometimes the lowest tech moment that you just find so much joy in because of the story that happened around making it. So, it's like they're all sort of my kids. All those deaths are like my little children. So I love them equally, but there are ones that just have better stories.
The great thing about it is the insight that you get from being there and making it, the
Yes.
stories that go along with.
Yeah.
What went right, what went wrong, how someone might have reacted to it versus how it appears on screen where there is a different aesthetic, there's a different feel to it. And, of course, there's a different reaction that an audience is going to have.
I mean, I can tell you like Petra Erskog, who Pippi plays Tilde, the Swedish caterer. Yes. And Tilde is also my assistant editor, has been my assistant editor for the last decade. And she's just an angel. She's an adorable woman. Anyway, she was very, very ill, seriously ill the year before we made Secret Santa. And I was with her through her entire illness. And so when we went to go shoot the movie, she was super thin, but just has one of the best senses of humor of any human being I've ever known. She's truly like a sister to me. I adore this girl. And so we're on set, and she has her moment outside when she starts throwing up her guts, right? Mm-hmm. And by the way, one of my favorite moments in the movie, because I love her, and also because I think it's a funny moment, is when she first throws up blood and then stands back up and goes, "Oh, that's better." Which is just, which is what everybody who actually throws up says. But then, of course, she just violently starts throwing up her insides. But the thing is, while we were shooting that, it was just above 0 degrees that night when we were shooting that scene. And she's in nothing but a white dress shirt, a catering shirt, and a tie. And she's bone thin, guys. I mean, truly, she's maybe 107 pounds by that point.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. And so in between takes, she would shiver like a leaf on the wind. I mean, she was so fragile. And I'd run over to her and I'd open up my coat and I'd hold her inside my coat. And she would be shaking in my arms. And I would say, like, "Honey, listen, if this is too much, we can go inside between takes. You do not have to stand out here. That's crazy." And she's like, no, this is the happiest I've been in a decade. And so here was this woman who went through so much illness, was so fragile, and was in the freezing cold, shivering like crazy, and was loving the work she was doing so much that she didn't even want to go inside between takes. She was like, no, I'm right here. I want to be right here. I'm like, that's what filmmaking is. Like, truly what filmmaking is.
All right, so we're coming up on the end of this, and we need to wrap up soon. So let me throw you a question I don't normally get to ask people. Is there any question that you've always wanted to answer about this film, or something you've wanted to talk about that no one's ever asked you about?
Ooh. Wow. That's actually a freaking great question. Anything about this movie? Oh my God, that's crazy. Wow. It's such a good question. My God. I'm racking my brain to really figure out what would be the thing. No, I mean, I got to tell you, it's funny. What's great about Secret Santa, honestly, like with Jason Goes to Hell, let's say, or even Texas Chainsaw, I've been asked questions for so many years about those movies that I got to tell you, I'm really surprised when somebody throws me a new question regarding one of those movies. And I'm like, wow, I have never gotten that question. So that's like always like exciting to me. The thing about Secret Santa, because I think the movie is so personal to people, like that you have your own connection with the film because of the way that it affects you as an individual and the way you deal with family. I think that I think that I don't know if I've ever gotten the same question twice, guys. Like all of the questions you've been asking tonight have been awesome because they are really unique. Like I have not gotten a bunch of these questions. No one's ever asked me what my favorite kill was before in my own movie. Like that's awesome. Like that's actually exciting. So no, I got to tell you, you guys, by the way, including the question, what is the question nobody asks you? Like you guys have actually been so freaking on top of it that I'm actually stumped. And I don't get stumped. Like I'm usually like, ooh, I can tell a 20-minute story off that. And I can't. Like that's kind of amazing that you've stumped me with a question about questions.
All right, so let's wrap this up.
That's awesome.
So that wraps it up basically. Why don't you tell everybody where they can find you on social media and where they can watch the film?
Awesome. You can find me on social media at Adam Marcus on Facebook, which I still do a ton of my social media off Facebook. I know it's now it's becoming this cranky old thing, but I do love it. And I'm also on Facebook at Skeleton Crew Pro and Hearts of Darkness, the making of the Final Friday. You can also find me at Jason Goes to Hell, the Final fan page, which has become kind of a wonderful thing, which is why we ended up making the documentary Hearts of Darkness, the making of the Final Friday. On Instagram, you can find me at Skeleton Crew Pro. On Twitter, you can find me at Adam Marcus 13 and at Skeleton Crew Pro. And that's where you can catch me. As far as Secret Santa is concerned, you can find Secret Santa on DVD and Blu-ray at either Amazon, or if you want really cool, like exclusives, signed posters, we have posters that were signed by the entire cast and crew. I have signed copies of the Blu-ray and DVD that you can get at secretsantathemovie.com/merch. And the movie is now it's on demand and available at Amazon and Google Play, and it should be on iTunes this week.
Very cool.
Awesome.
Yeah. So that's where we are.
All right, man. Well, I want to thank you for coming on the show today. We had a fucking blast.
This was awesome, guys. You guys were amazing. And I'm telling you, it is rare that I am stumped by questions, and you guys pulled that off. That is badass. So well played indeed.
That is fantastic. And if you'd like to hear more from Adam, as well as his wife Deborah, talking about Secret Santa, go check out their appearance on the Final Girls Feast podcast. Their show is always a good time, so you should go check it out right now. Or, wait like 1 minute until our episode's over. All right, that wraps it up for this week. As always, I am James Sabata.
And I'm Don Guillory, and Merry fucking Christmas.
And we will see you Monday here at thenecronama.com, where Josh Rubin is joining us to talk Batman Returns.